What's up, everyone? So today I want to go over what you should look for and expect when purchasing a used pressure washer. I'm going to give you a couple lists of do's and don'ts. I'm going to give you probably the do's first and what I would definitely consider a deal breaker towards the end. So keep an eye out for the end and we'll figure it out together. Now, warning, this is basically all talking, so if you don't like it, then move forward right now. But we're going to go over a couple things on this one, which is being listed. And so whenever I list anything, I follow these rules for selling because I wouldn't be buying it if I saw anything I'm about to show you that's wrong when I look at it, because my money doesn't come easy. I'm sure yours doesn't either. And if I'm going to be spending money on it, I want to make sure I'm getting what I actually am supposed to be getting. So, first things first. Is there water where you are? That's a do. Always make sure there's water. Now, when you connect it, sometimes where the inlet is down here, it might leak. That's not horrible if it's coming out of the inlet. Let me explain. There's a little rubber O-ring or gasket or whatever you want to consider it in there to it's kind of there to kind of make sure that the hose and the pump have pretty much a sealing surface in there, and when you tighten it up, you know, when you kind of feel everything just kind of like squished together, you're just compressing that little O-ring. You can go to any hardware store, any garden center, and buy like 5 of them for like $3. That's not too much of a worry for me. So if you have that problem, don't worry. But we're going to get into the don'ts, but at least that is something I would do, is make sure that there is water. Next, definitely do this. Check if there's oil. Not only is there oil, is it low? Is it clean? It's not 100% a horrible thing if it's not brand new, but it shouldn't be like black. If it's black, it's probably hasn't had an oil change, which if it's a relatively new model means it's been used a lot. If it's older, But just know that small engine oil turns black very quickly. So that's not 100% a deal breaker, but definitely check the oil. Next thing, does it have compression? What I mean by that is this. At some point in time, when I pull up on this, I should feel something difficult. Right there is the compression. And when I push it back down, I pull through it, it should be relatively difficult, not hard, but difficult to pull through there. Pulling it slowly is not going to start the engine, so you can at least check if there's compression. So, is there compression? Yes. Okay, pretty good so far. Now, I would insist, now we know there's compression, we know there's oil, and we know that there's water connected to it, that I give it a test drive. And if they do not have pressure washer tips, or if you're buying one without a wand, I would definitely bring a wand. If you're just buying the machine only, that's a good way of getting scammed. A real one potentially should have everything you need: hose, wand, obviously pressure washer. If it doesn't, maybe the person burned it on the exhaust, they just got tired of it and they got an electric one. I see that all the time. Buy a hose, because if you're going to be buying a pressure washer, likelihood of you needing a hose in the future, it's pretty high. If it doesn't have any tips, you could buy cheap tips. These are a couple bucks, and you don't have to worry about them saying anything about not having tips. So make sure you can use the machine. That is very important. If you can't use the machine, then I would never buy it. I need to see it build pressure. Now, something I would do before I do anything else is this. A machine, when it's warm, will start very easily. Now, that could be someone right before you get there putting a little starting fluid in there, turning it on, let it warm up for a little bit. in their backyard or something, moving into their driveway, and with no water around, you're thinking, oh, this never hasn't been ran for a while, and then they pull on it, starts right up, no problem. But that just means it's warm, it's been used. So kind of gauge, I'm not saying touch the exhaust, but you can do like this, or at least feel, if you see something extremely warm, like it's been ran for a couple minutes, that's not a horrible thing, just know that it's not good. A real person who's giving you a good machine is not going to need to run it before you do so. I would ask them, why is this hot? If they say they just need to use it real quick before they sold it to you, or someone else looked at right beforehand and didn't want to buy it or whatever, okay, but just know you might have carburetor problems or other problems. So that's kind of like iffy. So definitely do check that. With the water on, give it a try, check the pressure. It's going to be a little hard to check pressure, but here's the thing. Majority of the time, or I would say majority of people use a 25-degree tip. A 25-degree tip, when you're cleaning concrete, assuming that they'll let you do that, you should be able to take off a decent amount of grime. If your water coming out seems like it's pretty much just like a little bit above water pressure, your pump's bad. So definitely do run it and make sure the pressure is okay. If for any reason it's not, don't do that. Pumps are expensive, and that's a bad thing. So, yeah. Now that we have pretty much all those, I mean, some people might get weird about like air filters and whatnot. To be honest, I don't really care too much about air filters. This one, pretty much brand new. I can look at it. Think about this. Air filters are cheap. Air filters, while yes, if they're not filtering air, can ruin your engine. But if you have compression, there's oil in it, and it runs just fine, it doesn't bog, which we'll explain that later, then an air filter's cheap. You can deal with that later. That's not going to break the deal for me. Spark plug, also not going to break the deal for me. Excuse me. I can't tell you how many times people have came to me and said that, oh, it just needs a spark plug because it doesn't run. No, it doesn't. That's just a dumb thing. I don't like hearing it. If it's running with the current spark plug in there, it's fine. The motor's okay. Just because it doesn't have a new spark plug, but it runs just fine, is not a reason not to buy it. It's a good selling point, but it's not a reason to not buy it. Just gonna put that out there. Spark plug is like $350, and if they don't want to give you one, then it's not the end of the world. $350, boom, done. So that's not gonna break the deal. You can't check it, but not gonna break the deal. So now we know engine is oil, engine runs, pump has pressure, has potentially a wand and hose, or you're able to put a wand and hose with it and check it, and everything seems to run fine. You should be good to go. Now let me go over a couple don'ts. What you don't want to do, or what you don't want to see, is so you connect it to water and you see leaking coming from like different areas of the pump. That's not good, because what's going to happen is over time that leak is going to get worse and worse and worse until eventually it's just not going to work right. Then your pump is bad. That's going to be expensive. The cheap pumps are like $70. They're not hard to install, but that's still $70. If you're spending $200 on a used machine and you instantly have to spend like $70 to repair a pump or replace a pump, not good. That just turned your savings in buying an older machine, or not older, but at least used, down the drain. Like, you pretty much might as well just have bought a new one. So, hose and wands, that's a different story. You can buy a brand new one and still have to buy a hose and wand, but don't just say no because it doesn't have a hose and wand. That's not 100% horrible, because if you're still able to test it and it runs fine, you can buy a hose and wand. It will eat into the savings, and what I would say is don't buy it at the price you would assume it should be if it's been complete. For instance, go online. Let's say you're going to buy this DeWalt. If you say DeWalt pressure washer on Facebook Marketplace or whatever you use, Craigslist, I don't know. You see, let's say 4 or 5 of them. Expand the search is pretty much, I would say, no more than like 50 to 100 miles in every direction. You'll at least find a few of them, most likely. And if you're seeing that they routinely are like $200, and you see this one, it's like 180, but doesn't have a hose, just because it's cheaper doesn't mean you should buy it, because that hose is going to be the difference in price of the other ones. And there's a reason why there's not a hose on there. Like I said, it could just be the fact that they broke it and they got tired of it. But if they're doing that, they're probably frustrated and they just want to get rid of it, so they usually mark it down to a price where it's acceptable for that. Not always, but majority of the time. Now, something that you should also look for is if it is, we checked for oil, but if it's low, that's a don't for me. That either means this. One, it's been ran low in oil for a long time, and it's probably showing wear because of that. Or two, or potentially even both, it burns oil. And every time that they use it, or every other or whatever, they have to keep adding to it. Well, what happens if you decide to pressure wash your house and your driveway all in the same day? You go through like 2 or 3 tanks of gas. You didn't realize that it was an oil burner because you didn't really see it. They could be slower. Not every single oil burner is going to be smoky, but you didn't really notice it. And then